Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Najmi Berasli. For the first slide, I would like to talk about introduction. Sport pertains to any form of competitive physical activity or game that aims to use, maintain or improve physical ability and skills while providing enjoyment to participants and in some cases, entertainment to spectators. Sports are activities that certain people make as their hobby. Sports also allow us to do a lot of movement in an activity. There are various popular sports that can rise name of a country become known on a world stage. Malaysia has become part of sports activities that emphasize into people. This shows that Malaysia does not fall behind sports activities like other countries. Many Malaysian figures were born in this sector. There are a lot of programs as a government effort to educate and bring people closer about sports. Sports have been known as a good activity, but there are still many who do not follow it. When we include sports as a routine, it will guarantee one's well-being. Sports practices should be applied to prevent the increase of popular diseases such as obesity, high blood pressure, and so on. So, we did a study in an area that is suitable among the younger generation. We decided to choose students at an university we were studying. Students not only focus on education, but the realization of sports is important to them. This study aims to find out the relationship between engaging in sports among students BA119 Part 2 at UiTM Segamat Johor. Next, objectives of study. There are a few objectives that we will listed relate to the title. First, to identify the often in doing sports by BA119 Part 2 students. Second, to determine the amount of time spent on sports in one day by BA119 Part 2 students. Third, to study the favorite sports by BA119 Part 2 students. Fourth, to determine the preferred time by BA119 Part 2 students to do sports. Fifth, to determine an advantage in sports by BA119 Part 2 students. Sixth, to investigate the sports brand that BA119 Part 2 students' interest. 7. To determine the amount of money spent by BA119 Part 2 students for their sports.
Consider a population of all students from Program Diploma in Banking Studies BA119 at UiTM Segamat Johor. Suppose we want one of total number part the program BA119. Then the part was picked out which is part 2. After that, we decided to take 30 university students among BA119 part 2 that selected randomly to answer the questionnaire. Our group are using cluster sampling, and the step is step 1. The World Diploma in Banking Studies BA119 is listed into 5 parts which are called cluster. Step 2. Then select cluster at random using SRS. Let's say only one part from 5 parts. Part 2 was picked out. The last part is for one selected part, a sample is drawn using SRS. Above is step for simple random sampling. For the first, step 1, have a list of all BA119 Part 2 students from emails. Step 2, generate 30 different random numbers. And the last step is, thus, the corresponding 30 random numbers in a sampling frame is a sample.
Okay, now we move on to the data collection method. In our group, we use e-questionnaires for people answering our survey. We have spread it into many online platforms like WhatsApp and also Telegram. Alright, among the interesting parts to be found here is what are the advantages of using e-questionnaire. Okay, the first advantage of using e-questionnaire is it requires the very last time. The respondent just needs to click the Google Forms being given and then answers the questions. Next is the highest response rate. As you guys know that we have spread the e-questionnaire through many online platforms, so it can be reached into so many students. Alright, next we move on to the types of variables. In our survey, we have used two types of variables which are qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative is not numerical, it fits into two categories. For example, a qualitative question is what are their favorite sports and what sport brand that they are interested in. Quantitative is numerical, for example, their age and how often they spend their time for obtaining sports in a month. Next is skills measurements. We use three types of skills of measurements in our survey, which are ratio, ordinal, and nominal. Okay, so what are nominals? Nominals are things or levels with no sense of order. It can be stored as a word or text. To summarize it, we use percentage. For example, in the survey we asked them what is the time that they prefer to play sports. The highest percentage is evening, and the second highest is shared in the same place, that is morning and night. Next is the ordinal. Ordinal is ordered categories like ranking and order. For example, how often do they do sports in a month? They will be ranking like always, sometimes, and seldom. Next is ratio. Ratio is very straightforward. Why? Okay, for examples, we ask them about their age. If their answer 19 means that their age is 19 years old. If they answer 20, then their age is 20 years old. So different numbers means different age.
Based on diagram 1, there was an unbalanced distribution of gender of sample among BA119 part 2, which is 40% were from male students and 60% were female students. Based on diagram 2, majority of students from BA119 part 2 who those answering this survey were from class GBA1192C, which is 40%, followed by GBA1192A is 23%, followed by GBA1192B is 20%, and lastly GBA1192D is 17%. Diagram 3 about histogram of doing often by students in a month. We have already listed the measures of central tendency and measures of dispersion. Mean 3.4, median 3.31, mode 2.92. Next, variance 4.0241, standard deviation 2.006. Shape of distribution. We use mean minus mode. We get 0.48 positive value. So, the shape of distribution is skewed to the right or positively skewed. Diagram 4 about polygon of minutes in doing sports. We have already listed the measures of central tendency and measures of dispersion. Mean 42.5, median 42.0385, mode 40.5. Next, variance 518.2759, standard deviation 22.7657. Shape of distribution, we use mean minus mode. We get to positive value. So, the shape of distribution is skewed to the right or positively skewed.
Assalamualaikum. Hari is in diagram 5. Based on diagram 5, Mostly students among BA 119 Part 2 choose badminton as their favorite sport, which is 18%, which is 18 pupil. In percentage is 60%, followed by running 8 pupil, 26%, and lastly followed by same percentage, namely football and volleyball. That's only 2 pupil and 70%.
Based on diagram 6, mostly BA119 Part 2 preferred evening to doing their sports activity, which is 54%, which is 16%, and followed by during morning and night, which is the same percentage, 23%.
Based on diagram 7, the majority of students choose to release stress as one of the advantages of doing sports, which is 50%, followed by improving personal health, 10, 33%, and lastly followed by improved abilities, which is 5, 17%.
Based on diagram 8, Nike as a highest interested sport brand among respondents, which is 16, 53%, followed by Adidas 8, 26%. After that, followed by Puma, which is 4, 13%, and lastly, with the same number 1, 4%, for New Balance and Reebok. Diagram 9, about objective of students spend money for their sports, Ringgit Malaysia. We have already listed the measures of central tendency and measures of dispersion. Mean 170.5, median 167.1667, mode 163. Next, variance 8,981.5601. Standard deviation 94.7711. Shape of distribution, we use mean minus mode. We get 7.5 positive value. So the shape of distribution is skewed to the right or positively skewed.
Finally, our group has completely done with a survey about engaging in sport among BA 119 Part 2 students. We have used Google Form as a platform for them to give us their survey with answering our question about sport to them. From the answer, we will get their data to make a conclusion. We have spread the link to all WhatsApp group and Telegram. From the Google Form, we got the respondent. We use 2 types of sampling to see for where the population and sample are taken. We also use effective method in disturbing questionnaires, especially when unable to meet physically. It specifies the objective of research, although long consuming time. We also follow the terms questionnaire like avoid involved in calculate, avoid biasing, and so on into the question. From all respondents, majority of them is female. After that, many of them from class JBA 119 2C, and majority of them are often doing sport 0 to 3 times in a month. In majority respondent, they like to do sport in 31 to 60 minutes to do their own sport. Majority of them like to play badminton and majority like to exercise in evenings. Majority of them think sport will give them to release stress. The majority like next sport brand and majority spend their money in sport among 101 to 200 ringgit.